Welcome to the Scott and Brandon Show, a show where we entertain the pressing biblical, social, and political issues of today. My name is Scott Jackson, and this is my co-host, Brandon Ulmer. Our aim is to have open conversations about serious topics and to build up the body of Christ in the process. If you're interested in theology, applying scriptural principles to our daily lives, or political and social issues as they relate to Christianity, you'll definitely want to tune in. This is the Scott and Brandon Show. All right, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Scott and Brandon Show. If you saw our podcast feed last week, you saw that it was a re-release of a previous episode. That was just because I was on vacation. So my family and I were down in Florida for a little bit, and we didn't record a new episode. So you'll have to forgive us. But yeah, we're going to be jumping into a little bit more of a politically themed episode today. And, like I said on our, well, I guess it'd be 2 weeks ago now, if theology is not so much your thing, but you like talking about politics from a Christian worldview, then we've got some of that for you as well. So,
or just talking politics in general.
Yeah, very true. So, we're going to be jumping into kind of, Trump's first 100 days, but I looked at it yesterday. He's actually only been in office for like 43 days, and it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah, because if you think
with the amount of stuff that he's done.
Yeah, if you think about it, they start at the end of the month of January versus
right.
Even though I know Inauguration Day is January 20th, for some reason I think January 1st. I guess subconsciously in my mind when they take office. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense. That's crazy.
It feels nuts. And especially with the amount of stuff that's been done.
He's done a lot.
Yeah, he's moving at an incredible pace. But before we jump into that, we'll just start a little more casual. Brandon, how's everything going? How are you doing?
Yeah, man, it's going good. So I don't have too much to say, although we did get hit by, we had like almost 12 inches of snow the other day, right? Which is crazy for us. It's very rare. Matter of fact, it's rare to even get a half an inch of snow. So it was insane to see that. So it was cool. The kids loved it and they had a great time in it. Obviously, we didn't have the proper winter gear and equipment because our winters are always very mild. So yeah, we had to improvise. And then we didn't have snow boots or anything like that. So the kids had bags on their shoes, Walmart bags on their shoes. But it was good. It was good. So it was a good time. And but yeah, I mean, just taking it slow. I'm ready for the warm weather though. I am over this, although it's supposed to be up to almost 70 today. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. So that's good, man.
How was Florida? Did you buy a new lightsaber from Disney?
Florida was good. No, we went to Disney World, and I did not come home with a new lightsaber this time.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. Couple reasons why. One is this is our first time going with 3 children.
Yeah.
And I drastically underestimated the difference that would be from 2 children that are able to somewhat, at least, basic things like hold their head up by themselves.
Yeah.
So we went with our youngest. He's 5 months old now.
Yeah.
So he can't really do anything. So he had to either be held or be sitting in a stroller all the time.
Yeah, they're useless.
Yeah, they can't do anything. So I just kind of, for that reason primarily, I was just like, I'm not going to add to the chaos. I'm not going to ask for a special trip to the lightsaber store and go buy one. Second reason was I eventually found my way into the store, but they didn't really have any new ones.
Yeah, the Force led you there.
Yeah, it did, yeah. The only new ones they had, I'm looking up the name of the series now because I can't remember what it is. It's kind of dumb.
Is it the...
It's the one that's like for kids.
I was wondering. I was actually going to ask to see. You should see if they have any lightsabers from that. It's a Disney Junior Star Wars.
Young Jedi Adventures, I think is what it's called.
They had one from that. That's pretty cool.
Well, they had like there's a couple. I know one for sure is from there, because my son wanted to watch that show one time, and I remember seeing this lightsaber on that series, and there's a Wookiee Jedi apprentice, and he's making like his own lightsaber, and it's a wooden hilt is what it looks like, and they have that one there. That was really the only other one that they had that I didn't have already. Actually, there is one more. Like I don't have Darth Vader's hilt yet, which would be cool to get.
That would be.
I have Darth Sidious and Count Dooku and several others, but the only other one that they had that I would really be interested in getting is like Kanan Jarrus, which is from Rebels, if anybody's familiar with that. And then Ahsoka Tano. They had her hilts from both the Clone Wars series and the newer like Japanese katana style hilts that she has in the Mandalorian series. So
pretty cool.
Yeah. So a little nerd stuff for everybody out there. I'm a very big Star Wars fan, so
I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I got my oldest daughter now into Star Trek. I got a board game, Star Trek Captain's Chair. It's a deck building game. Yeah, shows the nerd, and it's an in-depth game. Very You would appreciate it, Scott. You would appreciate it, but it got me. I was like, oh man, I need to watch the Star Trek series. So I'm on Star Trek Enterprise.
There you go.
Yeah, it's real, really good.
Yeah,
and I never actually watched that one. But I got my oldest daughter. She's slowly becoming a Trekkie now, so I'm excited.
Hey, there you go. That's cool.
My goal is to make them all Trekkies, and then obviously all Star Wars fans. So
yeah, Star Wars is fun. I've always been a bigger Star Wars fan than I was a Star Trek fan. I never really got into Star Trek for whatever reason. So
really,
yeah. Honestly, I think it's just because like my dad started me on Star Wars, and he was not a Star Trek fan, so I just never had the opportunity.
The storyline in Star Trek is amazing. So I love the storyline. Really good. So, but yeah,
very cool.
Let's press on. Let's talk about
let's
Trump.
Jump in. Why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, Trump's first 100 days. Man, I still can't believe, like you said, it's been
43 days.
43 days that he's been in office, and that is insane to me because I feel like it's been longer. I'm like, oh my goodness. And there has been quite a shakeup of really geopolitics and U.S. policy, right? And honestly, you either love them or you hate them. I mean, that's what it boils down to,
Yeah, and I feel like that's true always anyway.
So what have been some of the most, I guess, the ones that have caught your attention? We'll kind of go back and forth here, but...
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one... one that caught my attention yesterday, I saw it yesterday, was the... how the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company is making a major investment in manufacturing in the United States. So there's a big investment in like the semiconductor market.
Yeah.
That's going to be U.S. based. So I think if I remember correctly, I wrote it down so I didn't forget about it. There's a $100 billion investment to expand its chip manufacturing operations here in the United States. This is 3 new manufacturing plants and 2 packaging facilities in Arizona. And it's expected to create thousands of high-paying jobs. So,
which is going to be good, and obviously solve the low chip problem, right?
Yeah, that's a big problem because they're all almost manufactured in Taiwan right now.
Yeah, and obviously the concern is if China gets Taiwan, they're going to get the chip, be able to hold on to those chips. So that is, a huge big deal. So since he's been in office, I looked this up. He has signed, I think he's at this point, 76 executive orders.
That's impressive.
And
it's a lot.
It is a lot. I mean, I feel like what he's doing, because obviously this is his last term as well.
Yeah.
Right? he is obviously, wanting to do these things for the betterment of America. I
Right.
firmly believe that he does, right? But at the same time, I think he's also doing so many things at one time to cause the most amount of chaos, right?
Yeah.
So that way, the opposite political side, whether they're appointees or just Democrats in Congress, whatever, right? The method to slow him down, or what they would try to do to slow him down, is much harder because now there's so many different fronts that
Hmm.
he is moving on. Which one do you focus on to try to
Yeah.
deter him right now?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so I think that was very strategically thought out. Like, okay, hey, we're gonna do that. And so, with it, I think is a good thing as far as I'm aware of. Maybe some minor, smaller seats, but the his cabinet is officially in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is, hey, that's a win for Trump. And
That is a
obviously,
win.
the most controversial ones, Kennedy. Oh, what is her name? My name just.
Gabbard.
Yep, Tulsi Gabbard. There we go.
Yeah. Pam
Um,
Bondi got confirmed
yep.
as well.
So
So
that's a win for Trump right there.
yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if he's had anybody been like rejected.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody. Obviously, the most controversial ones were, I'll say it was Patel, right? He was
Yeah, yeah.
controversial,
And he made it
and
through.
he made it through. Then, and I'll give kudos to Patel. We'll talk about this here in a second, but he, you know, and I guess people were not expecting him to do it, and which was surprising. But he defended the FBI when it came to sending out the 5 things that you did.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, "No, we're not doing this." So we'll talk about that in a second because it's obviously the whole government thing with civilians is a huge deal right now. But anyways, yeah. So Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and
Hmm.
Kennedy, the most controversial ones have been confirmed, and they are in their secretary seats. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
all a win for Trump right there. I'll say the other thing as well with that is the currently the ceasefire, but it's tensions are starting to rise there. But the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel,
Hmm.
that was a win, and that occurred even before Trump got into
Before
office.
he was inaugurated. Yeah.
Trump pulled a Reagan, which Reagan did in I think it was 1980. He told Iran, right, if you don't release the American hostages that you have, I'm coming in. I'm coming for you once I'm
Yep.
sworn in.
Yeah.
And what they do, they
They
released
released him.
them.
Yeah.
So, and obviously that's what Hamas did as well. And so, again, that's another win for Trump right here.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Yeah, I know another one that has kind of caught my attention. Obviously, other than there's some ones that we have on the list here. Just the rate at which Doge is operating is, it's very interesting to watch that department just kind of peel back some of the waste
yeah,
in the federal government, which I'm always a big fan of cutting waste. It's there's maybe some arguments to be made that it's like, hey, is what they're doing completely constitutional, or like, are they allowed to cut all of the stuff that they're cutting? But like,
yeah,
when you really look at it, the main concerns and main arguments from people on the left is like, well, Doge is going to get rid of Social Security, and they're going to get rid of all of this stuff and all of these benefits and stuff from the federal government. But that's just not happening. Like, they're getting rid of things that are unnecessary, like the federal government spending a couple $1 billion on political news network subscriptions and stuff like that. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm a big fan of so far of what Elon Musk and Doge has done. I'm not one of those conservatives that's like, oh my gosh, Elon Musk is the best person on the planet, because I'm
yeah,
a big Elon Musk fan. Like, I think he's very fascinating and he's incredibly intelligent. He's very, very, very smart. And I do like a lot of what he has to say as far as like cutting waste and being more efficient and using government resources better. Because if we are going to pay taxes, I would like my money to go towards something that I actually support.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been kind of blown away at, again, just, and I think this is kind of an overarching theme of the Trump administration so far, is just the pace at which they're moving, which I think is it's very fast, but it's very cool. So
They are moving fast. I don't know if, and I'm on the Doge website right now. I don't know if they will hit their 1 trillion.
did
What they're
they have a timeline that they wanted to hit that by?
I believe because I believe that by um, July of this year, Doge is supposed to be done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or
Okay.
maybe next year. I can't remember, but they have a time limit when they have to be done. They have to step out.
Yeah.
So that'll be. I have to look that up and see. But Doge does have a timeline, and um, said, I am all for cutting waste. I think what we've seen too is that Doge has made some mistakes, quite some big mistakes.
Yeah.
And obviously with the bird flu people they fired, that's a
Yeah.
huge deal. You want to keep those, right? Obviously they reinstated them, which was good on them, right? At the same time, they fired all the nuclear people.
Yep.
Like, oh no, sorry about that. Let's reinstate you, right? The
Yeah.
Ebola,
Right.
which obviously Musk talked about, they canceled the Ebola stuff and then they reinstated it, right? They are, and this is my issue here with the whole process of Doge, and I do appreciate that there is pushback in the courts,
Right.
right? Because I do believe, yes, they are trying. I believe Doge is somewhat trying to be methodical, but I also believe because I think their time is up in July, they
Yep.
are moving fast. And I think they're moving too fast and not doing this methodically, especially when we're looking at, because Doge has an impact in the reduction in force
Yeah.
process that Trump is begins implementing next week,
Right.
right? And and I thought it was interesting. A lot of people are talking about Trump's reduction in force versus Clinton's reduction in force, and I'd have to say Clinton did a much better job
Yeah.
at reduction in force than Trump is doing. And I would say, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts on this. I think Trump is obviously doing this because he does want, I don't want to say it's payback, but he does want to get rid of the bureaucrats in the government. And so I think that's the reason why he is doing what he is doing when it comes to this reduction in force. He's
Yeah.
firing people that whatever. He's like, you're done, right? Which a recent judge denied. So
Right.
Trump fired. I think it was I forgot who they were appointed to. They were appointed by Biden, but I forgot which department they were placed in, and the judge. He was terminated at the beginning of February, and a judge has ordered he must be reinstated. That Trump doesn't have the authority to fire him, and
Yeah.
also that's what happened. He's been reinstated, right?
Right.
And so, as I said, I think that's where you look at with Clinton. Clinton approached Congress and was like, "Hey, let's do this methodically." And I think the other thing too that's being pointed out with Clinton versus Trump is that under the Clinton administration, they wanted to send the federal employees off, as decent human beings, right? There's this sentiment. Marjorie Greene, right, Congresswoman. Have you seen the
Yep.
clip of her bashing federal employees?
I've not seen the clip, but I have heard about
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. You got to take a look at the clip. There is this, in a sense, vilifying federal employees, and
Yeah.
again, I would disagree. I'm like, not all federal employees are bad. Are there certainly ones that are wasteful and
Yeah.
lazy?
Right.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would say so. Right. When I was in the military, you saw that. There's lazy Marines,
Yeah.
lazy soldiers. They're everywhere. They're in the private sector as well.
Yeah.
But
You have lazy people everywhere.
yeah,
And I think what Trump is doing is, he is a businessman. He's not necessarily the politician, which I guess he's become more politically savvy throughout his presidential career. But there's a saying in, the business world that I've heard, is you hire fast and fire faster. As soon as you notice that somebody is not performing to the standards that you expected, or not performing to the standards that they promised to be performing, then you fire them and replace them. And it's better to fire a disengaged employee rather than keep a disengaged employee just because you need a person there. It's better to have the shortage of workforce and have all of your employees be totally engaged and totally in their projects, and rather than to have a highly disengaged employee, which statistically offsets about 5 highly engaged employees. So it takes 5 highly engaged employees to offset 1 highly disengaged employee. And part of it's a culture thing. Part of it is a workforce production issue. But I do think that's the approach that Trump is having with the federal government. He's looking at it as a business, and he's like, look, there's just so much unnecessary expenditure. There's so much unnecessary waste here. We're paying people to do things that we could do with a lot less people. And if you look at Elon Musk, this is kind of his MO. This is kind of his thing.
Yeah.
When he bought Twitter, he came in and fired 80% of the company right off the bat. And he's like, we don't need all of these people to run this website. We need significantly less. He fired a whole bunch of people, and it was performing better than it ever had. So, this is kind of the thing on business owners. Elon Musk, obviously a big business owner. He runs Tesla, started PayPal, runs a few at SpaceX, obviously. So, the man is incredibly intelligent, very smart, obviously knows how to run a business very well. He's, to my knowledge, the richest man on the planet. So, he somewhat knows what he's doing as far as running a business. And I think that's the approach that they're having. Now, I'm not a big, I guess I will say, I like that aspect of it. Okay,
I think
if you're going to run a business, run it efficiently, run it well, get rid of the people who don't necessarily want to be there, or get rid of the people who are just clocking in for a fat paycheck for doing little work.
Yeah.
Right.
I would agree.
Now, like you said, I'm not a fan of the generalized vilifying of the federal employees. I think there are hardworking, honest, decent, good people that work in the federal government. That I think the right has a little bit of a tendency to look at the federal government, and even those who are in the government on the right, they're like, yeah, the federal government sucks.
Yeah.
And to an extent, I can understand that sentiment, because the federal government has screwed the American people just over the last 4 years specifically.
Yeah. But when we look at what also employees do who work for the federal government, you got to take, obviously our border. Now, obviously that's a political thing too as well.
Right.
But you see right now, right, our federal employees, right, who work for the border, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, all that, they've done an amazing job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just past couple months, which shows this is what they've always been able to do, but due to political appointees, right, they've been hindered or progressed, whatever the case is. We need them, right? Military, we rule them out because they're not being touched, obviously, right now. Obviously, they won't, because Trump wants to build the military. But that's separate. But then you have those employees that support the military, the civilians, right, that support the Department of Defense. And there's a reason for that, because you need them, right? The military can't run everything, right? It is the way it is structured. It needs these civilians to come in and support their objectives, whatever the case is, right? What about you look at some of these federal agencies out there, such as, that protect consumers and so forth, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much to say that and again, I would say, yes, the government, American government has has screwed over the American people. But at the same time, we also look to the federal government, these workers,
Yeah, we do.
and a lot of them are good, hard working Americans,
Yeah.
and they are getting paid for what I and you pay them to do, and that's what I
Right.
expect them to do. If they're lazy, yes, by all means, get rid of them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But overall, I think, and I would say this, and as Marjorie Greene stated, they don't deserve their paychecks. I think a good chunk of the federal workforce deserves their paycheck.
Yeah, I could even say like, and again, I can understand the sentiment, and I think that's important when you're trying to look at controversial issues like this, like
Yeah,
maybe trying to find commonality.
yeah,
And Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the most eloquently articulated person in Congress. I'll just
no,
put it that way. She's very blunt, which can be a good thing, but it can also be a very negative thing. And I
yeah,
think her saying, federal employees don't deserve their paycheck. It's like, well, okay, look,
like,
Marjorie, you're also a federal employee. So do
yeah.
you not deserve your paycheck? Should you be forced to get a job in the private sector
I could
and
say,
volunteer your service as Congresswoman? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because we say Congress has screwed over the American people, right? We could
No,
say,
they have. Every part of the
and
federal government is screwed over the American people.
and no,
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
I was gonna say Doge. So Doge, I looked it up. Doge has an expiration date of July 4th, 2026. All right, so
Okay, so they got
they
a
do
little
get
more than a year.
a little more than a year. Currently, as of now, on Doge.gov, you can go there, go to their savings tab. They currently have saved the federal government, as being reported, an estimated of $105 billion.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask about their savings. This is related. I wanted to ask you and get your thoughts on what do you think the likelihood is that Americans are going to receive a $5,000 dividend check from Doge?
Well, that's actually gaining a lot of momentum.
I
But
know that.
there is good argument on the other side that opposes that, saying, why don't we just use, instead of sending out a refund check, why don't we
Yeah,
use that to pay down debt? And that's also a good argument. And but I understand the one argument, be like, I should get a refund because
those are my tax dollars.
taxes.
Yeah,
Which now leads me into, what do you think of the tax plan? They pushed through the House, which barely made it.
yeah.
Obviously, it's sitting at the Senate right now, has not been passed yet. But going from a national income tax to a sales tax.
I'm 100% for that. I have said that ever since before I could vote. Um, I think that is a great thing because okay, so here's the thing. Here's my reason for that. So you have somebody who they get paid in cash. You can be paid under the table somewhere. Um, you get paid in all cash, so your IRS doesn't know what you're making, and you can walk into a car dealership and you can buy a car with cash. You've not paid tax on the money that you've made. You're not paying tax on the car that you're buying, and or at least nothing substantial, right? So, and then it's like me and you, the person who has a normal job. We make a normal paycheck. We have a W-2. The IRS knows all the money that we make, and they take their fair share. I get taxed on that, and then I get taxed if I'm going to buy any sort of major thing, and I get taxed all the way around.
Yeah.
So not only do I get my income taxed, but I also have a small sales tax on a lot of items. Like I think the state of Ohio has like a 7% sales tax. Maybe it's less than that. I could be wrong. But just getting rid of the income tax on a federal level and only taxing people on what they buy, I think is perfectly fine. Like, why do you need to be taxed on every dollar I make? Why can't I just be taxed on the money I spend?
I was looking at the tax plan, and again, I'm not a tax expert. I don't understand everything about taxes,
No,
but
I'm not either.
I let this plan. So obviously, there would no longer be an income tax, right? So your federal wage, your federal taxes, right? They're not going to be taken out of your paycheck. In addition to that, as well, you're not paying taxes for Medicaid.
Yeah.
That's not going to be taken out of your paycheck, and Social Security either will not be taken out of your paycheck.
Yep.
So you're already keeping a good chunk of your paycheck by those taxes being removed from your paycheck. So in
So okay, so I'm going to interrupt for a second. I'm trying to understand this properly because I don't know as much about this new tax plan as you do. Is the proposal that you don't have to pay tax on the Social Security if you're drawing Social Security, or are you not paying Social Security tax? Like you're not paying into Social Security
you're not
anymore.
paying into tax, but also, right,
Your
recipients
withdrawal is not taxed either.
are not taxed either, right? Same thing about, I believe, bonuses, overtime, tips are no longer taxed as well, right? So, but let's, I mean, that's a big deal. It's a huge deal. That would help a lot of people out. But I want to go back to
So that would be like a Social Security is 6.2% of your paycheck.
So now you get that back.
And Medicare is 1.45% for the
People,
employee.
I mean, think of somebody who makes, probably, I don't know, say maybe I don't know what the average check is, but someone who works, and they maybe get a little, maybe over 2,000 bi-weekly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so 6% of that. That's still a good chunk of
So
change.
if you have a $2,000 paycheck, you're saving $153.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and then obviously you got to include your Medicare, right? Because now that's being given
Yeah,
back.
Medicare is 1.45%. So that's including, that's like a 7.65%
And now your
savings.
federal wages as well. Your federal tax is now being included back into your paycheck.
That would be the big one because that's like 25 to 35% of your paycheck, depending on how much you make.
Yeah. So
that's huge.
that is huge. So here's the thing though with this tax plan, if it gets approved, right? Which obviously we're going to see because we are getting close to a government shutdown, and we'll see how that works. But with the tax plan, right? So now everything you buy will have a sales tax in it. So the thing is with this is that you're not going to be surprised when you go check out.
No.
Right? It's already included in the price. So when you go buy a $3 cup of coffee, it is going to be $3 because the sales tax is already included in that.
Right.
Now, with this being said here, right, this tax plan does have a sunset clause in there.
Yeah.
Right? And after 7 years, if the states have not fully implemented and accepted this new tax plan, because we got to see how it's going to work, right? Because a lot of states have their own sales tax, right?
Yeah.
And so if the states do not accept this plan within 7 years, it reverts back to the old system.
Oh, okay.
So we would go back to what we're currently in right now, an income tax. So with that being said, what is also I thought was interesting in regards to the tax plan here was, oh man, and it just left my brain. I hate when that happens. I was about to say something, I totally forgot. It'll come back to me. I'll probably remember when we're talking about something else.
No worries.
But what was it? Darn it! Oh well, I hate when that happens.
That's all right.
But it still is interesting, switching from this income tax to now a sales tax. Obviously, for those that are worried about Medicare and Social Security, they're like, how is that going to be funded? Well, it would be funded by the consumer tax, right? The sales tax.
Yeah, the consumer sales tax would take place of the income tax. Yeah.
Right. So that would still be funded, so forth there. And with the amount of stuff that Americans buy, it's going to be fully well funded. So
yeah, I mean, I honestly think this is going to drive up consumption. Because Americans are going to be taking home 30% more money on average, right? With the Medicare savings, the Social Security savings, and the federal income tax savings, they're going to have 30% more money sitting around in their pockets, which means they're probably going to spend 30% more money.
Yeah, you can buy more papers, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
I wouldn't feel bad about it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but for real, like I honestly think Americans, we are a consumer culture. Americans, by and large, are very materialistic. They like their toys. They like their luxuries.
I love my board games, and
yeah,
I could always use more board games.
Yeah, not exactly the toys and luxuries I was referring to, but there you go. If the
Yeah.
if the
Oh, you're
if the
talking about
shoe
cars,
fits.
houses, and
Yeah,
boats.
yeah, I'm talking about just like even unnecessary stuff like the latest MacBook Pro or the latest car or
Sounds like a
it,
podcast we need to do on contentment and consumerism.
yeah, materialism, yeah.
The god of materialism. Yeah, it's true. And again, there's nothing wrong with obviously purchasing anything, right?
There's not.
Ecclesiastes
There's not.
tells us enjoy the fruit of your labor, right? Solomon's what Solomon tells us to do. So again, there's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, an issue if you make it a god, but yeah, but I think that's also the American dream as well, and in a good sense, to make yourself wealthy, which is a
Right.
good thing, right? And so then you're able to go out and buy these commodities and purchase these things.
Right.
And that's part of the American dream. Not saying that's the end all be all, right? That's like, you know, everything. But America has been the beacon of the world that hey, you could come to America and
Yeah.
make
You
something
can
of
make
yourself
something of
by
yourself, yeah.
working hard. And so then you're able to enjoy the fruits of your labor by buying a nice house.
Absolutely.
The biggest house, but you have a nice house, you have a nice car,
Yep.
and a nice boat, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I am all for that. How this tax plan is going to be fully, if it gets fully implemented. I mean, as of now, it's still got to clear the Senate.
It's got to go through the Senate, yeah. Which
And
I would suspect it will, but
I think it will, but we'll see how it. So I remember now what I said. So obviously, once it passes, and I think I'm going to say once it passes because I think it will pass. And I said it's got a sunset clause of 7 years, so we'll see how well it will work, right?
yeah.
But then when you file your taxes next year, that'll be the last time you file your taxes.
Praise God.
You will not file your taxes anymore after that.
Look, if that gets me to not have to file any IRS tax forms or anything like that, I am all for it.
Because it's a fair tax. Everyone's going to pay that tax. There's no way around it, right? Where you can, with the current tax code, you can wiggle your way through. Because even Trump said he did it, right? When he was debating Hillary.
And why wouldn't you? Like, they act like that's a bad thing. Like, oh, you're taking advantage of loopholes in the tax code. You're a terrible person. And it's like, okay, well, one, don't you? And two, why not? Like, if there's a way for you
I can get
to keep more of your money,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, why not? So I don't see the bad thing in that.
Now everyone's going to pay a tax, which means more income coming to the federal government. But also in this, right? It talks about when the government is the consumer of goods, they also still have to pay the sales tax as well.
Right.
Where typically government gets exempt from
tax exempt,
not this case. So it's interesting. So it's a fair tax across the board. Everyone's going to pay it.
Yeah.
So I say, let's give it a shot.
I think how you described it is totally accurate. It's fair. I think it's fair. If you're going to spend the money, you can obviously afford to pay 6, 7, 8% on the tax. Because like right now, lots of states have sales tax.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think the state of Ohio.
I don't know what my state's is.
5.75% in Ohio.
Yeah,
I think Florida's 6%. So it's right around that neighborhood, generally speaking. Let's see, sales in the U.S. The average sales tax in the U.S. is 5.75%. So, there is already kind of precedent for removal of income tax and implementing of a sales tax. Like several states have already done this. I think there's 9 in total. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Not that this is terribly relevant to what we're talking about. Well, it kind of is, I guess. Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming.
Yeah.
All of those states currently do not have a state income tax. So on the state level, there is some precedent for what that would look like, replacing a income tax with a sales tax, which I'm totally fine with.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be a good thing. We can press on and talk about something else.
Yeah, I want to pick. There's a few more things because I want to talk about cryptocurrency because this is huge, but not yet.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about some of these. And again, I didn't write all 76 executive orders down, but you can go to the Federal Register yourself for anybody who's curious to see all the executive orders he has signed and actually read them. But one, he made English the official language of the United States.
Which I
So
don't know why that's so controversial.
it is. But the biggest one I think is the most impactful to me is the end of paper straws.
Oh, thank goodness. Wow.
So let me explain that. All right. So Trump is not telling Chipotle to stop using paper straws. All right,
Yeah.
because he doesn't have the authority to tell a private entity what
Right.
to do. Right.
Right.
But he is telling the government, all right, that because the government does
They use
purchase
paper straws.
to stop using paper straws and to go back to plastic.
That's
So
great.
as the expulsion of DEI was in the federal government and now has impacted the private sector, and we see the
Absolutely.
private sector get removing DEI, this will probably be the same thing with
Paper straws. Well,
They-
and yeah.
So yes, because it's so it is so freaking annoying.
I was just in Florida for a week, and that's all they have is paper straws down there. I was in Disney World, and it's like, can I have a straw with my drink? And they're like, yeah, here's a straw made of paper that's going to be soggy in 5 seconds.
We need to make it. You need to take this paper straw, make a short video reel out of it. But someone would have to look this up. But I think I saw at one point with paper straws that the chemicals produced in the paper straw to make it what it is actually more harmful to you. Where that was not
Interesting.
to be the effect of a paper straw, right?
Yeah.
But don't quote me on that. Someone would have to look that up, do your own research, and see. But to me, that would make sense because it is coated in some sort of plastic coating, obviously.
Right.
At least that's what it appears to me. I've never looked at the structure of the paper straw, so I'm assuming here. Feel like this paper straw is not becoming paper instantly. I put it into, as paper, when paper touches water, right, it becomes very brittle. It's not doing that right away, which tells me it's got some sort of coating.
Got something on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's good. Obviously, implement of Doge. We've talked enough about that. Making America healthy again by empowering patients with a clear and accurate health care pricing. I think that's a huge deal.
I think that's good.
Yeah, so you have a menu now of like, here's the procedures, here's the price for that.
This is how much it is. Yeah.
And in conjunction with that, right, expanding in vitro fertilization, right, for many, many women, that's a huge deal, right?
Yeah.
And, as a male, right, I've never thought to consider that, right? Because, men can't get pregnant. I know that's controversial, probably still to say.
How dare you?
How dare I?
How dare you?
There's so many women out there that long to have a child and they haven't been able to because
and they can't. Yeah.
Is too expensive, and this is such an awesome thing. So I'm happy for them. It's exciting. I love this one. Keep men out of women's sports.
Yeah, it seems very cut and dry, pretty basic to me.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting, right? So how does this work? Well, any school that receives any sort of federal funding, you have to comply. Right? So
you have to, or else you run the risk of losing your federal funding.
Yep. So that includes, right, when a school is receiving financial aid from the government, there you go. Right? They're receiving, so they better have men out of women's sports, right? And including, all your K through 12 schools, which, again, now talking about K through 12 schools, he's signed an executive order to end the radical indoctrination. So we're talking like DEI, CRT, things of that nature is now, hey, that's done. So, which is a big win, right? Turning education over to the states.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
The other one is the Iron Dome for America. I thought that was interesting. What did you think of that? The Iron Dome for America.
I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like I don't. A lot of these things, I'm just like, well, I mean, yeah, I don't really see where that would be bad. It's maybe not something I would have thought of right away. Like the need for an Iron Dome for America doesn't seem as prevalent as maybe for Israel, right? We obviously have a great big beautiful ocean between us and the rest of the world,
but that's nothing for an ICBM,
right? That's becoming increasingly obsolete, right? For a long time that was probably the biggest reason why America survived as long as it did. We had this giant ocean between us. But the Iron Dome for America, I think I fail to see where that can be a bad thing,
Mhm.
and that's kind of, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm for it. I don't have a problem with it.
yeah,
I think anything that promotes American safety, American security, um, I think that's a good thing.
it is.
Obviously within reason. I don't want people violating my privacy for that sake, but
Yeah,
um, you know, having an Iron Dome, yeah, I don't really have any other thoughts other than I think that's a good thing. I think it
it
could
is good.
be helpful in the future, especially with global tensions rising and things like that. So
Yeah. The other thing, and I'm really excited about this, obviously, is the cryptocurrency task force and making it
yeah,
the cryptocurrency of the world.
the
And I'll be
leader,
honest,
yeah,
and I'm going to assume the same thing with you. I mean, I've always known about cryptocurrency, but I never became, fully interested into it until, obviously Trump stepped into office. So,
yeah. That's the same thing with me. I've
yeah,
known about it, and like 2 or 3 years ago, if you would have asked me what different types of cryptocurrency are, like I would have known maybe two or three.
yeah, I was the same way.
Um, that was it, and explaining to you how it works and what it is just a lost cause. Like I just could not do it.
Oh, but
Like,
now I'm researching, trying to understand blockchain better, right? And all the different cryptocurrencies
right,
going on with this cryptocurrency here. So I've definitely educated myself. I'm not an expert in cryptocurrency, but I definitely have enough information now to actually have an intelligent conversation with somebody on cryptocurrency,
right,
right? And at least to defend which ones maybe one should back and invest in versus others, right? So I'm at that point. I'm still in the shallow waters of cryptocurrency,
sure,
but enough to see this. But he wants to use this to establish a sovereign wealth fund, or a strategic reserve. He's named Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, I think is the other one,
yeah,
Cardano, as part of the digital assets that the U.S. government will stockpile, right?
right,
Because having physical assets such as gold is good, which I think they still have to go to um, the vault still and see
hmm
if gold is there. I haven't seen anything on that. They're supposed to be going to the vault to check that out at some point.
if there's even gold there,
If there's
yeah,
even gold there, there's supposed to be like some billion worth in gold in that vault. So we'll see. But he wants to obviously add to that cryptocurrency, which I think is really good because if you look at, I mean, crypto has had a volatile moment in his first couple months in the Trump administration. And that's due to various reasons, but that's also the tradition of cryptocurrency. But you can look at cryptocurrency once it establishes its position, it holds it. Right, it's going to fluctuate and stuff,
hmm
but you look at Bitcoin. Right, when he announced it, it did obviously shoot up. It's gone down a little bit as well. Again, to be expected, but at the same time, once the federal government starts purchasing these cryptos, it's going to increase those cryptocurrencies drastically.
yeah,
Uh, Now it's going to be fully implemented worldwide. So fascinating to see. Excited to see the crypto market officially get some love because I know in the Biden administration it was not getting that, and it is now getting the love. So definitely for our listeners, look at cryptocurrency. Start investing into cryptocurrency. Quite fascinating.
that is
Uh,
interesting, yeah.
I think the other thing here, obviously, it's made national headlines, global headlines, right? Ukraine, Russia. Did you see those Oval Office thing?
I didn't watch the whole press conference. It was like 50 minutes long, but I did listen to some recaps of it with clips of
Yeah,
the exchange.
I think
I
the exchange itself is like 15 minutes long or something. So it's not that long. I watched the entire exchange, and I
Yeah,
also
I
told
will say I think that whole thing was JD Vance's fault, but I also think that Vladimir Zelensky sort of wanted to blow up the meeting. Um, I don't know if he necessarily, like, I think he's doing it to save face to his country.
yeah,
It's like, look, like I'm out here fighting for you and doing all this stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah. You're dying on the battlefield.
what's funny, and I think Ben Shapiro put it pretty accurately, Trump was the adult in the room for
You,
the
you,
whole
you can
meeting.
see that. He's
Yeah,
like, man, he just steps. I was gonna let my kids. I'm gonna let them
Well,
solve.
and like, okay, you've got Zelensky who's like leaning forward very aggressively, attacking the president, virtually on every single point. He's just here for a public press briefing, and they're supposed to make the negotiations behind closed doors, but he's like demanding security guarantees and stuff, like right in the room. And Trump is just like, yeah, we'll talk about all that when we get in the back, and security's not a big problem. And he's just kind of sitting.
Yeah,
If you look at Trump during the whole exchange, he's got a very casual posture. He's not,
yeah,
um, he's not sitting up and being aggressive. JD Vance didn't say a word the whole time until that last
yeah.
15
I
minutes.
think it's the Marine and JD Vance
I
that
think it was.
it is. It's like
I think he should have probably just kept his mouth closed and just said like, hey, you know what, I understand you're frustrated, but let's maybe end the press briefing and let's go into the back room and talk about
well, I
some
think
legit
that's also
things.
too the business side of Trump that kicked in, right? Trump's done enough of these deals
Yeah,
where JD Vance maybe he's done. I don't
has
know,
not.
right? And so I think it's I do respect that JD Vance defended his president, right?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him
He was
defending Trump.
good, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
I do love that. I think in the sense though, you saw with Trump, like you said, he was being more like the father. He
yeah,
knows what's
he was
going
the
on.
adult.
He's just like,
Yeah,
I've done this enough. I know through wisdom and experience, he knows how to respond to this,
yep.
and he had a plan in place. But obviously, it's been blown. But it looks like now it's back on the table.
Well, I don't think,
On
I
something.
honestly don't think this fiery exchange really did anything to mess up anything. And
It did pause right now aid
right,
to Ukraine.
right. I don't think anything long term is going to happen though.
Yeah,
And I
temporary.
think Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister for the UK, I think he came out and said, hey, we the UK are willing to do what we need to do to secure peace in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But he said any sustaining peace or anything like that is not going to happen without the involvement of the US. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not. And he described the US as a reliable and important ally.
Yeah.
So I do think there is a realization, and Trump, I think, put it accurately when he's like, he said you have no cards without us. There's no cards for you to play with if we're not involved.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. I think he's right, and I think Zelensky knows that. Trump knows that, which is why I think he wasn't getting so upset.
Mm.
And it was a very interesting exchange, though. Yeah.
Well, again, there's obviously a lot more he's done in the last less than 50 days he's been in office.
He's done so much.
Yeah, we'll need to do another where we have with Trump. Maybe next month or within
Yeah,
maybe 6 weeks or so. Every 6 weeks, check in unless something
I'm
major.
cool with that. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just.
Well, so okay, we're about to hop off here because we're running up against our time limit. But just real quick, what's your general sentiment towards the Trump administration? Just generally speaking, how do you feel like his presidency is going?
I am very pleased overall with what he is doing. Right, he's doing exactly what I voted him in for. I don't agree necessarily maybe with everything and how they're going about stuff. I think that maybe there's other things. The reduction in the federal workforce, again, I'm not against that, but I
Yep.
think better treatment or methodical processes should have maybe been more thought out. But overall, though, I think hey, they're doing exactly what I voted them in for to do, and I am pleased with that. So I would say at this point I'm overall pleased.
Yeah, I think I would share the same opinion. I will say, like, I don't feel the driving need and urge to know every single detail that's going on in the Trump administration because honestly, the government has been less involved in my life. Like they just haven't had as much of an impact on me as it did when the Biden administration was in place. So,
Yeah.
with the Biden administration, my and now grocery prices haven't drastically dropped or anything like that, but gas is cheaper where I'm at. The government is just generally quieter. Like I don't have as much worry about how the government is operating, which I think is a good thing. So Yeah, so we can we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. But yeah, those were just kind of our general thoughts on the Trump administration so far. Like we said, it's been less than 50 days that he's been in, and he's done 100 days worth of work.
Yeah.
So the
Leave us a
man just does not stop. Yeah,
yeah. Leave us a comment. Tell you how you think. How you think.
yeah. Whether you like Trump or not, I'm sure those who don't will comment anyway. We won't have to ask them, but
Sure.
um,
No question.
yeah, let us know how you feel about the Trump administration, what your thoughts and opinions are on that. And yeah, we'd love to engage with you down in the comment section. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. If you're listening on a podcast platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and follow the show as well. And give it a share, give it a review. Those things help us out tremendously. And obviously, we're slowly but surely growing on YouTube, which we're excited about that. But we'd like to continue that growth. So everything that you do to help us out with that is greatly appreciated. And on that note, we will go ahead and sign off for this week. We will be having a new episode next week, and probably more on the theological train. Politics has been a little bit, it's been busy, but it's been quieter, less explosive things to talk about. So
Yeah.
we'll probably be moving more back into theology next week, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks for tuning in.